Now, when I was a young man, I used to live in Baltimore, and I haven't been there in a long time. It was like 25 years ago or something. But I used to live up there for a while when I was younger, and people up there would call Baltimore Charm City. And you might ask yourself, well, why did they call it that? And I don't know what the official reason is, but I know why I call it that, and it's because the people up there are charming. And not only that, there's little customs and little funny things they do up there that are kind of charming, and that's why they call it Charm City. And let me give you a for instance of what I'm talking about. There's a town up there called Dundalk. Now, Dundalk is sort of like where the true Baltimoreans emanate from. And by the way, I use that term Baltimorean as a term of endearment because to me it's just easier to say Baltimorean than say Baltimorean. It just kind of rolls off the tongue easier. And I can use that term because I used to live up there. It's not like I'm an outsider or something. So I hope nobody takes offense to it. I don't mean nothing by it, but it's just a little thing I do, a little quirky thing that I think is kind of charming in its own way. But anyways, the true Baltimoreans, they all kind of emanated from Dundalk. And the funny thing about Dundalk is the people there, they talk kind of funny and they got kind of a funny way of doing things. For instance, just about every street in Dundalk starts with the name Dun. You got your Dunhill Road, Dunbar, Dunmurray, Dunglow, Dunaman Way. Just about every street down there starts with the name Dun. Now think how charming that is. Let's say you come home from work late one night and your wife says, "Where you been at?" You're going to look at her and you're going to say, "Well, I done got off work and I went down to the Dundalk Tavern on Dunway in Dunmurray, and I done had a beer, and then on the way home I done caught a drunk on the way home." Think all the fun you could have with something like that. And that's what I mean. The place is kind of charming like that. Now, if you're like me, if you go to Dundalk, you're going to get thirsty. You're going to want a beer. Because I drink beer just about every day of the week. So, if I go to Dundalk, I'm going to want a beer. So what I'm going to do is go to a bar or a liquor store, to get some beer. There's only two cheap beers in Baltimore, the kind of beer that I drink, because I don't like to spend a lot of money on my beer, because I drink beer just about every day. You got your Schlitz, and you got your National Bohemian. Now, National Bohemian, that is way too highfalutin a term for anybody from Dundalk. They got to shorten that down. And that's what I mean. They got a funny way of saying things. So they took the National Bohemian and condensed it down to Natty Bo. They just call it Natty Bo instead of National Bohemian. So if you go in a liquor store or a bar in Dundalk to get your beer, the guy from the counter, behind the counter, is going to say, "Hey, hun, what can I do you for?" He's going to call you hun. Now, how charming is that? That's pretty charming. Call grown man hun. So what you're going to do is say, "Hun, you got any Natty Bo?" Now think about it. That's pretty charming. And that's what I mean. They got charming ways of talking up there and charming ways of doing things. Now, they got a team up there named the Baltimore Ravens, right? You might have heard of them because they won a couple Super Bowls, and they're on TV every now and then. Folks from Dundalk, they didn't want to call them the Baltimore Ravens. You know what they wanted to call them? They wanted to call them the Baltimore Crab Cakes. I'm not making it up. That's what the name they want to give the team from Baltimore, because everything's crabs up there. Now just think about it. They'd have a mascot dressed up like a crab. They come out on the field and This crab would be walking sideways down the sidelines. You gotta admit, that's pretty charming. But the best of the Baltimoreans are way too highfalutin and sophisticated to put up with something like that. So they ended up calling them the Ravens. But anyways, everything's crabs up there. Like how up in New England, the chowderheads like their lobster. Well, in Baltimore, they like their crabs. And you can do a lot more things with crabs than you can do with lobster. Think about it. They got the crab cakes, the steamed crabs, or soft shell crabs. They got crab imperial, crab on a stick, crab on a rope. They'll do anything with a crab in that town. Now, everybody knows people from Baltimore like crabs, but what a lot of people don't know is that you're not allowed to eat a female crab in Baltimore. That is no-no. They catch you eating a female crab in that town, you're in big trouble. And I'm not making that up. You can look it up online. You can Google it. They do not want you eating female crabs in Baltimore. Now that begs the question, how does one know the difference? Now if you go to the store and buy a crab, they got them labeled, so it's not a problem. But if you're like me, you like to go out and catch your own crabs. Now, I used to go out in the bay and catch my own crabs when I lived up there. You got to have a system for telling the difference between a male crab and a female crab, because you're not supposed to eat the females, like I said. Now what I used to do, I had a foolproof system. When I catch a crab, I'd have a little talk with him before I put him in the ice bucket, like a little interview. It'd only take a minute or two. I'd talk to him. I'd talk about the weather, about sports, the fishing report, stuff like that. If I got the feeling that that crab was a little edgy, a little moody, a little bitchy, that's a female crab. I'd throw her back. You can tell by talking to him. Now the only problem I ran into was every now and then I come across a crab, a female crab that talked like a male crab. Like she was making sense and she was all calm. She wasn't real excitable and she was kind of cerebral, So she'd act like a male, but you knew something was wrong, You just tell something didn't seem right. That's a transgender crab. That's a tranny. That's a female crab that's going to try to look like a male crab. Now that's not a problem though, because you can just throw her in the ice bucket, because nobody's going to know the difference, because she's going to do everything she can to look like a male crab, and nobody's going to know the difference. Only problem you're going to have, those transgender crabs, they're going to taste a little fishy, because you know how the women are. They're kind of fishy, you know that. So that's not a problem though, because what I would do is just put a little extra Old Bay on there and throw her in the ice bucket. Nobody's going to know the difference. But check this out. Let me digress for a second. How like in Brooklyn, New York, there's a lot of Puerto Rican people, a lot of Hispanics. Now those Puerto Ricans in Brooklyn, they think Puerto Rico is an island off the coast of Manhattan or something, because they're all either from Puerto Rico, or they know somebody that lives in Puerto Rico, or they get a case of Bacardi delivered every month from Puerto Rico. They like Puerto Rico, sort of like an extension of Brooklyn, New York, basically. Well, they got the same thing in Baltimore. They don't call it Puerto Rico, but they got another city that's sort of like a possession of Baltimore. And check this out. See how charming this is. Now, this city happens to be located along the ocean. Now, what would you call a city that's located on the ocean? What would be a charming name for that city? Ocean City. What else are you going to call it? That's charming. That's exactly what they did. There's a city down there on the eastern shore of Maryland called Ocean City. I'm not making it up. 95% of the people in Ocean City are from Baltimore. Now you might ask yourself, why is that so? And the reason is very simple. If you're a good Baltimorean, you have a civic responsibility to make an annual pilgrimage in the summertime to Ocean City, Maryland. And it's not a law or anything, but you're expected to go down there every summer. You don't do it just like once a lifetime. You do it every frickin' summer. You're supposed to go down to Ocean City. Now, let me digress again for a second. Remember how back in the biblical times, the Romans would go out and try to convert heathen to Christianity? Remember that? Now check it out. Let's say there's some Roman soldier going out with a big cross and trying to convert heathen to Christianity, and some peasant runs up to him and says, "Hey Jack, where are you all going?" He's not going to say, "Well, I'm going out to find some heathen and convert them to Christianity." He's not going to say that. What's he going to say? He's going to say, "I'm going on a crusade." He's got to have a name for it. He can't just say, "I'm going out, to do this or that." He's going on a crusade. Now, if you're a Baltimorean and you're going to make this annual pilgrimage to Ocean City, you got to have a name for it. Folks from Dundalk, they came up with this cute little name, and I'm going to tell you how to say it. Can you say the word Danny? Like Danny K or Danny Thomas. Say the word Danny, and then say the word ocean. And then say both of those words real fast and put them together. What do you get? Danny Ocean. Let's go Danny Ocean, hun. That's what they came up with. Danny Ocean. If you're going down to the ocean, you can't say to your wife, "Hun, I think we should go down to the ocean next weekend." You can't say that. No, you're going to say, "Hun, let's go Danny Ocean." How charming is that? That's charming. But anyways, it's a funny thing. When I lived in Baltimore, I went to college at this little college down by Ocean City called Salisbury State University. Now check this out. What do you think would be a charming name for a college located near the ocean? For for this athletic program. What do you think they call them? They call them the Mighty Seagulls. That's charming when you think about it. I was in the drumline when I was there. We were called the Mighty Seagulls Marching Band. Now that's cute. That's charming. You got to admit. When I went there, I had my roommate. He was African American, and he was an ordained minister. Yeah, his name was Riley, and he had papers and everything. He was legitimate, but he might have been a preacher on Sunday, but he wasn't a preacher the rest of the week. No, he wasn't even close. He was more sinful than I was most of the time. But anyways, Riley and I, we got along pretty good. And one time we went up to this little town called Delmar, just north of Salisbury. Why did they call it Delmar? Because the state of Delaware and Maryland come together where this little town is. So they called it Delmar, like Delaware, Maryland. It just so happens that Virginia was on that Eastern Shore Peninsula as well. So that whole region, they call Delmarva, with a VA, Delmarva. And the reason I mention it is because you're not going to get the next joke unless I tell you that stuff. That's why I bring it up. But anyways, we went to Delmar, and when we got there, there was this restaurant called the Delmar Inn, and they had a big sign that said "World Famous Fried Chicken." Now I knew Riley was African American. He's got to like chicken, right? So I said, "Hey Riley, how about if we go in that Delmar restaurant over there and have some of that world famous fried chicken?" And he thought that was a good idea, so we did. And when we got in there was this big old black lady. She looked like Aunt Jemima. She was right off the label. She had a do-rag on, and she was big, and she was kind of intimidating, though, I thought, because she was kind of surly, and she was big and everything. But anyway, we got our fried chicken dinner, and when we got done, she leaned over the table and got right in our face, and I was afraid I thought she was going to smack me. Maybe I used a spoon when I was supposed to use the fork or something. Because they're big on their table manners down there on the Eastern Shore. But anyways, she got in our face and she said, "Now, gentlemen, wasn't that just the best fried chicken you've ever had in your whole entire life?" And Riley looked at her and said, "Ma'am, that was absolutely marvelous." And I started laughing, and that lady, she busted out laughing, and Riley turned red, and it was one of the funniest things that happened the whole time I was in college. Marvelous. Now, come on. That's charming. Who else going to come up with a term like marvelous? But that's what I mean. They're charming down there. You know, we went to Ocean City once. Ocean City, Maryland. Riley and I did. And we were sitting on the boardwalk, and you know, he looks at me and says, "TJ, this is a nice family town during the daytime. Look at all those little crackers running around playing in the sand. This is a great town during the day. But once that sun goes down, this place turns into Sodom and Gomorrah on the Atlantic." And I looked at him, I said, "Riley, I know you're a preacher man and all, but I only go to church every now and then. I don't go every Sunday. So don't you go throwing those biblical terms at me, because I don't have a clue as to what you're talking about." That's what I told him. And he looked at me and he said, "TJ, you're a young man. You're kind of naive and you don't know a lot about the world yet. So I can't be too explicit in explaining what I mean by that. But let's just suffice it to say, when that sun goes down, there's things that happen in this town that you wouldn't feel comfortable telling your mama about." And I looked at him and I said, "Riley, don't you go talking about my mama." And we got into a fight. Because you don't talk about my mama. No sirree, Bob. I didn't appreciate that. And you know, funny thing, I'm like almost 60 years old now, and I still don't know what he meant by that comment. Sodom and Gomorrah on the Atlantic. I still don't know what he was talking about. Hey, but anyways, y'all gotta go. I know you're busy. I'll say one more thing. You gotta go up to Baltimore. You gotta check it out for yourself. The place is charming. Next summer, take some time off and go up there. Drive up. You know, if you come up from the south now, one thing you gotta look out for is you gotta go through Washington, D.C. So if you have a gun, you might just want to take it with you, because you might need it in that town. You won't need it in Baltimore. Some people are charming up there. They won't mess with you. Unless you get in trouble with the Baltimore police. Especially if you're African American. You don't want to mess with the Baltimore police, believe me. But you know how to stay out of trouble. You know, it won't be a problem. Have some fun when you go up there. Go on eBay and buy an Orioles cap. You know, the Baltimore Orioles, the team that's always losing. They got that little emblem, looks like a bird, you know, on the hat. Buy an Orioles hat, because when you put it on, they'll think you're a Baltimorean. And go on up there. Now, when you go up 95, there's a little place you stop at, a little rest stop. And what you're going to do is put your oil cap on, go in that rest stop, and go find a gentleman, you know, working behind the counter, and go up to him and say, "Hey, hon, where might a feller from Baltimore get a 6-pack of Natty Boh in this town?" He's going to look at you kind of suspicious. Because, see, I'm getting kind of popular, and a lot of people are going to see this bit. So they might get up there before you. See, he might have already heard that line. But don't let that bother you. Because what he's going to do, he's going to look at you and say, "Well, that might depend on where a feller from Baltimore might be headed this time of year. Where might you be going?" And that's when you're going to look him straight in the eye and you're going to say, "Hun, I'm a Baltimorean in this summertime. Where do you think I'm going?" "I'm going down the ocean." And you'll have a comic moment. You have some fun. I guarantee it. That's all I got for you. Go up to Baltimore. Check it out. It's a charming place. We'll see you next time.